Hey guys, it's been quite a long time since I've done a proper video that wasn't a live stream. Weird, right? Anyways, today's review is on the recent Netflix series, She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. I'm just gonna be upfront. This show sucks. Honestly, I had modest expectations and I was still disappointed. And no, it's not because it's not the original, far from it really, but before I go on further, let's see to how we got where we are today. Also, just a little forewarning, some minor spoilers are ahead, you've been warned. In 1982, Mattel introduced to the world a barbarian-like action figure character named He-Man, and a year later debuted in a show that he was the main character of, that being He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. The show told of a prince named Adam on the planet of Eternia who used the Sword of Power to transform into He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe, by the way, in order to defeat a villain named Skeletor and his evil forces.
By the power of Grayskull!
Did I also mention that this is Adam's secret? You know, despite the only difference between Adam and He-Man being the fact that Adam wears clothes, whereas He-Man is always shown being half naked. It was a cheesy but fun cartoon that was basically a half-hour toy commercial like every other cartoon that came out in the 80s. He-Man, the Masters of the Universe would have a 2-season run from September of 1983 to November 1985, and it was so successful that it got a spin-off which began airing in September 1985 called She-Ra, Princess of Power. This show focused on Adam's twin sister, Adora, who was captured as an infant and brought to the planet of Etheria by a force known as the Evil Horde, led by a being named Hordak. Adora is granted the Sword of Protection and uses it to transform into the mighty She-Ra by saying,
"For the honor of Grayskull!"
in order to combat Hordak and his evil horde. She-Ra, Princess of Power ran from September 1985 to December 1986, lasting 2 seasons, though it did put a dent in the franchise as a whole. Mostly because it was a boys' franchise trying to appeal to girls now. There would be a live-action movie titled Masters of the Universe in 1987 with Dolph Lundgren as He-Man, though the less said about that version the better. In September 1990, Mattel tried to continue the continuity of the original He-Man show with The New Adventures of He-Man, which featured He-Man being summoned to the planet of Primus with Skeletor not far behind. I haven't seen this show, but from what I've read, most fans prefer the original over this. Then there was the 2002 reboot also titled He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, which was the show that got me into the franchise when I was a little kid. This version has Adam as a teenager who is only a grown man when he transforms into He-Man, which makes more sense than Adam already being an adult like in the original. He's just less likely to give away his identity. Anyways, we also get the origin of why Skeletor is a skull with a muscular blue body, and in addition to the revamped styling of the entire cast, every character gets expanded upon with their own backstories, including the villains. This cartoon wasn't just selling toys, but toys of characters that you actually gave a crap about. But like anything good in life, the 2002 show was cancelled after 2 seasons and ran from August 2002 to January 2004. Season 3 of this show would have introduced She-Ra, but fate was in the way. Oh well. So finally, we get a new entry into the Masters of the Universe franchise, and of course the first reboot of She-Ra herself. So why all the negativity at the start? Well, never have I been so underwhelmed than when I watched She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. Though, right off the bat, I'm fine with the slight title change, matches with her twin bro, and much better flow. The show follows the old one fairly closely in terms of Adora's origins. Due to being raised by the Horde since she was an infant, Adora is shown as a part of the Horde and sees nothing they have done as wrong until she sees exactly what happens without the bias. However, unlike the original where the Sword of Protection chose Adora based on her being the sister of Prince Adam, this version has Adora randomly find the sword out in the middle of nowhere. This does create a bit of a mystery, especially with whatever Eternia is. It's clear that the showrunners want Adora to discover Eternia and everything about it by herself as opposed to being saved by He-Man like in the original show. It's interesting enough, though Adora herself falls into the camp of being generic. She does have something going on when it comes to being She-Ra, but anytime where she's not being She-Ra isn't anything to write home about. Adora doesn't even seem to try to learn about where she came from or even what Eternia is, as if the show crew dropped that tidbit in there to please the old fans. She's only interesting when she learns about the world of Etheria, and gets boring when she's not exploring, which does take up a big chunk of the show. Adora is a grown woman only when she transforms into She-Ra, like Adam in the 2002 He-Man show, which I most definitely approve of. Unfortunately for Adora, characters like the villainous Catra aren't fooled at all, and unlike her bro, everyone knows that Adora is She-Ra. Isn't she supposed to secretly be She-Ra? It would at least build up some suspense, something the show desperately needed. In terms of the villains, the villainous Shadow Weaver serves Hordak as a part of the evil horde, and she's pretty damn intimidating with my favorite scenes involving her. She's pretty threatening and even gains the upper hand on She-Ra at one point in the series. Other villain characters like Scorpia and Entrapta are basically there for filler, with Scorpia acting as the dumb muscle of the group. Meh. And Entrapta is working for them because she's incredibly gullible. She starts off with the good guys when we're introduced to her, but then Entrapta ironically lets herself get trapped by Catra, and next thing you know, she's working for the evil horde as Catra convinces her that Adora abandoned her. Hey idiot, you got yourself into this. You moronically ran back for no reason, and now you're a bad guy. Woohoo! I do kind of dig the love-hate relationship Adora has with her former horde member and childhood friend Catra, though Catra needs to decide whether or not to just destroy Adora. Seriously, it's borderline bipolar. No joke, but in episode 11, we see Catra get all warm and fuzzy inside about past events involving her and Adora, and next thing you know, she decides she'll leave Adora to die. Not to mention, at one point earlier in the series, Catra acknowledges that Shadow Weaver brainwashed her, but then gets mad at Adora for not accepting the brainwashing. This whole ordeal is all over the place. Also, if you're brainwashed, aren't you supposed to say you're not brainwashed? Or is it, if you're brainwashed, you don't know you're brainwashed? Ah! It's like the writers couldn't pinpoint exactly what they wanted to do with her. Do you want to be friends with Adora or keep being Shadow Weaver's bitch? It's like the world's worst cock tease. As for the big bad guy himself, Hordak, he's barely in this. I swear, if you weren't already familiar with She-Ra before the show came out, you'd probably forget about Hordak even being there. He's supposed to be to She-Ra what Skeletor is to He-Man, for crying out loud, yet the show puts more focus on Shadow Weaver despite the fact that she's not the leader. And no, the show doesn't treat Hordak as something being built up and becoming She-Ra's most difficult enemy to fight. He's just a completely wasted character. At least Hordak's got a neat redesign reminiscent of the 2002 He-Man show, but that's all the positives I've got for him. Anyways, the rest of the hero characters. The character Glimmer is pretty damn unbearable, like a whiny child in the first 2 episodes, but is decent afterwards, and it's nice to see her always be there for Adora. Now, with the character of Bo, it feels like the writers recycled Lance from Voltron Legendary Defender with similar mannerisms and speaking patterns despite having a different voice actor. I'm not saying that having a character like Lance is a bad thing, but it feels strange already having a character similar to him this soon also being from DreamWorks. The princesses in the supposed Princess Alliance, hence the slight title change, that we meet throughout the season, that being Perfuma, Mermista, and Frosta, aren't really anything to write home about, and they ironically feel like characters to fill toy shelves. Here, I'll sum them up for you. Perfuma is a tree-hugging hippie. Mermista hates life and the fact that she has responsibilities, probably wishes for death. Frosta is an overly serious 11-year-old and a long-lost member of the Southern Water Tribe. And that's it. That's all those characters are. No personality, you get everything about them from these descriptions, I swear to God. Probably the biggest problem in the show is perhaps the lack of tension. Oh, the show tries to build tension up, but it lasts for an episode at most. I don't know what it was, but it was hard to get engaged with this show. The characters don't give me much to care about, not to mention missed opportunities. For instance, in episode 7 where Entrapta makes her debut, She-Ra appears to have been infected by a virus that has infected Entrapta's robots throughout the episode, but it doesn't make her evil like the robots and thus requiring Glimmer and Entrapta to take She-Ra down. No. Instead, it makes Adora basically act drunk throughout the rest of the episode. Now, I get it that it requires Glimmer and Entrapta to take down the robots, but how interesting would it have been for the two of them to take down the quote-unquote most powerful woman in the universe? Like, what was going on in the writer's room? Was this a creative decision? Was DreamWorks meddling with this? Whatever the reason, blown opportunity. Oh yeah, and the last episode is Princess Natasa and Princess Spinnerella featured in it partway through. That's all I'm going to say about them because they just show up after serving as background characters prior to the last episode. Though the worst treatment to a character has to go to Madame Raz. Why is that? The episode she debuts in has her as this quirky old witch who tends to talk to herself, and then the show forgets about her after the episode ends. The fact that the crew introduced a pretty fun-seeming character only to have her basically disappear and be a throwaway character is quite the letdown, especially since her voice actor Grey Delisle does a fantastic job of bringing the character to life. Is it honestly that hard to have her play a role in the overall season? At least similar characters like Old Man McGucket from Gravity Falls served as comic relief for the longest time before becoming a crucial part of the series' plot. But no, just introduce a charming character and then forget about her. That's how this show rolls. Ugh. As for the look of the show, there are some redesigns that I am more than fine with. The character Madame Raz was in dire need of a redesign, and I'm glad Shadow Weaver looks distinct and not just a tall female version of Orko. However, I'm not a fan of how She-Ra looks, especially since it looks like she's wearing bike shorts. No, I'm not asking to have her goods be visible underneath her skirt, but I'd honestly prefer a longer skirt over the bike shorts. In addition, maybe just, I don't know, give She-Ra her boobs? As it stands, Adora looks like she's dressed up for a con rather than being transformed into the most powerful woman in the universe. Yeah, Adora grows taller and her hair grows longer when she transforms, but that's it. Maybe that's why the villains know Adora is She-Ra. She barely changes. As for Catra, well, she originally moved like a cat and could even turn into one. Now she's a cat girl and resembles a long-lost member of the Thundercats, though it has been growing on me to where I dig it now. But then there's redesigns that look like recycles of characters from other shows. Now I get it, multiple characters can have similar traits, but that's one thing. It's another to basically copy and paste. Scorpia looks like Shiro from Voltron Legendary Defender except with scorpion claws and a tail. Mermista looks like Connie from Steven Universe without her glasses. Emo Connie, anyone? Queen Angela bears too much of a resemblance to Allura from Voltron Legendary Defender, even down to having a British accent, which is strange when you consider that her daughter Glimmer doesn't have one for whatever reason. And like I mentioned earlier, Princess Frosthair and her kingdom look and feel like a recycled version of the Southern Water Tribe from Avatar The Last Airbender. Like I said, I get that there are franchises with characters that bear resemblance to characters from other franchises, but these are just too damn distracting. You know, come to think of it, the dynamic that Adora has with Glimmer and Bow is like that of Aang, Katara, and Sokka from Avatar The Last Airbender, and her relationship with Catra kind of resembles that of Aang and Zuko, being that Catra is always sent out to defeat Adora, like Zuko was with Aang. Perhaps that makes Hordak the Fire Lord? Hell, at some point towards the end of the season, it suddenly dropped that there's been multiple She-Ras in time. So I guess She-Ra and possibly He-Man, if he does exist in this universe, is just like the Avatar and is passed down from generation to generation? No joke, the show just drops that on the audience with zero build-up and left me going, what the fuck was that? Anyways, in terms of the animation style, it's like someone was asked to draw in the Voltron style with the resemblance of Steven Universe, creating a hodgepodge. TLDR, I'm not a fan of this style. Now, if this works for you, then fine, good for you. I'm just not into it. Personally, the style is comparable to chocolate-covered bacon for me. I like chocolate, and I like bacon, but I like them separate from each other. And might as well clear this up, despite both Voltron and She-Ra coming from DreamWorks Animation, Voltron is animated by Studio Mir, whereas She-Ra is animated by a newer studio called NE4U. That might not be the pronunciation of it, please correct me if I'm wrong on this. In addition to Voltron also being produced by World Events Productions and She-Ra being produced by Mattel. So it's not like with Voltron where it's animated by the same guys as Legend of Korra, hence the similar designs. I mean, I'll give She-Ra this, there isn't another show style quite like this. But that's not always a good thing, especially in this case. Maybe this is the kind of art style you find on sites like Deviant or Tumblr, but nothing supposedly official. Look, I get that coming up with 100% original ideas is hard, but it's a turnoff when shit so closely resembles that of other franchises. So overall, there's some Voltron in there, some Last Airbender, and even a pinch of Steven Universe, and not that much She-Ra, unfortunately. Honestly, I don't recommend it. It's not because it's not like the original, as I was never that keen on the original She-Ra. It's because the show sucks on its own merits. From the writing, to the character designs, to the characters themselves, it's all fail, fail, and fail. The entire show is more focused on being everything else that's popular instead of being its own original thing. This show is called She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, yet ironically the only princesses that we even get to know are Adora and Glimmer, while the rest are throwaway filler characters, kind of like in the old show. It's as if we never left the 80s. I get that it's only the first season, but this is where the show is supposed to get people hooked as well as getting hooked on the characters. At least most of them anyways. If you can't manage to do that, then that's no good. Now, there might be someone watching this saying, well, it's such a diverse show, how could you not like it? I'm fine with diversity, but I don't make judgments based on diversity. Diversity does not guarantee a good show, and will never guarantee a good show. I'll also say this right now, I'm not going to be watching Season 2. If Season 2 even gets made. At the time of this recording, Season 2 has not even been announced, so who knows if it'll even happen. I might watch an episode that features He-Man in it if that were to happen, but that's as far as I'll go with She-Ra and the Princesses of Power from here on out. If you enjoyed the show yourself, good for you. You know, more power to you. It's just, this really wasn't my cup of tea, and, well, I kinda like to get my time back from watching it, to be perfectly honest. So, that's all for now. Happy holidays, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.
I am Adora, He-Man's twin sister, and